Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to Kottabos Space Program, where today we are having a look at the WorldWar Maritime Ships mod, which is being made by forum user BuzzFeed for Life. And what this glorious little piece of work looks to add into the game is a World War I and II naval vessels for you to play around with. Now, at the moment, this is the first release of this mod, and so there is currently just one naval vessel, and that is a World War II German U-boat, but the mod maker is working on more. Currently, according to the mod page there, the French Surcouf submarine, which, oh man, I can't wait for that one. A submarine with a giant artillery piece on it? How can you not like that? But for now, let's jump into the spaceplane hangar and have a look at the German U-boat we currently do get. Now, typically I'd grab, for size comparison's sake, one of these command pods, but this thing is so large, none of them would frankly compare and do justice. So let's just head down to the fuel tank category for some reason. I don't know why this isn't in command pods, but down at the bottom of the fuel tanks we have the U-557 submarine, which is just a beautifully massive thing, which does hold an impressive amount of 56 Kerbals for the full crew complement, requiring, though, at least a minimum of 3 to operate. Also does have a built-in alternator producing 16,000 electric charge per second, an engine producing a max of 3,600 kilonewtons of thrust using liquid fuel. It also does have a built-in reaction wheel, a battery holding 130,000 electric charge, a fuel tank holding 10,600 liquid fuel, and also an ore tank holding 70,000 ore, along with a generator that magically produces ore at a rate of 1,000 per second, which is odd, but I'll talk more about why that's there here in a moment. But let's actually pop this thing out into the spaceplane hangar and just look at this thing. It is pretty well made. I really do love the modeling on this, and the texturing is pretty good too. Now, typically I prefer something a bit more stock-alike, but when you do make more realistic mods, especially of real-world things, people do tend to go for the more slightly realistic texturing, and this seems to be kind of in between those two, in my opinion, but overall does look quite good. And on the modeling, again, it just has loads of great details to it. I really do like it. We got the naval gun up in the front, and that gun up there. We got all the, cabling things. I don't remember what those are supposed to be called. Just all in all, it is a very well-made boat. Now, my favorite thing here, though, is that oddity of having an ore tank and an ore generator on a submarine. And the reason for it is, well, that's how it sinks into the ocean, or, of course, raises back up to the surface. And I really like that. Now, we have actually looked at a lot of other mods in the past that add in either full submarines or submarine mechanics into the game, and they typically add some new, strange resource for it to actually do the sinking and floating. And we've seen things like a ballast resource, a compressed water resource, and things like that. This is just using the base vanilla in-game mechanics of, oh hey, ore weighs stuff. So yeah, if you generate magically ore, it will add weight sinking the submarine, and if you release it, draining it out, you will raise back up. And that's also where I run into the first bug with this mod. Now, I think it was in 1.9 that they added the resource draining thing into the game, which is this bit here that's meant to drain the ore. And it doesn't seem to be working quite right. It can't, for some reason or another, detect the actual ore in here. Now, if I do go and just grab an FTE1 drain valve and pop it on, that is correctly identifying liquid fuel and ore, so you can select the ore and have at it draining that resource. But yeah, for some reason, it must not be configured right in the file for the U557 here, that it's not detecting the ore or fuel resources. So at the moment, to get this thing to work as intended, you are going to have to pop on one of these FTE1 drain valves. Hopefully this does get fixed. Like I said, this is the first release of this one, so, you know, hopefully things like that bug will be fixed in future editions. But let's actually head out into the world and take a look at this thing in action. And I've already got a one of the submarines out in the water over here with the full complement of 56 crew because, oh my god, 56 crew in this thing. You can really move around a lot of Kerbals. And here we are with our lovely submarine. And this, I wouldn't say necessarily a bug, but just a slight annoyance currently with this. We, at the moment, have 0 ore in here. And it seems to be balanced to stay just below the surface. Just below. Now, that could also be because I do currently have full fuel. And if we had less fuel in here, it might be floating a bit higher up. But at the moment, yes, with full fuel, electric charge, and 0 ore, this thing does just sort of float just under the surface here, which I would have preferred for it to be all the way up in the water, and then you add a tiny bit of ore for it to drop down to this level. But otherwise, I mean, it's still floating here quite nicely without any sort of special resource, just using the in-game mechanic. And if we do want to start sinking, all we need to do is activate the resource generator producing ore. And if we just pop that on real quick, you can see it's starting to fill with ore, and we should start to sink. There we go. We are beginning to go under. You can see us dropping there. It actually does take a fair amount for this thing to sink, so which is good because it means that with how fast that ore is getting filled up there, it's not just gonna drop like a stone to the bottom of the ocean, which it kind of will if you start with a full thing. I dropped this thing in the water initially with all the ore, and it just sunk. This way, with the amount we have here, we're actually starting to stay pretty steady here at about 8 meters. And of course, if we do want to be, oh yeah, I dropped it down a little more. If we want to raise back up, we're gonna have to use this drain valve right now, which I did bind to my 1 key. So if we start doing that, we can see it draining that resource, and we'll begin to surface again. There we go. Now, once the drain resource is fixed on the submarine, it'll all be incorporated in there, which is lovely. I, again, really hope that does get fixed in the next version. But other than that, let's, you know, start up the engine on this thing, throttle it up, and get moving forward a bit with our lovely submarine. And what the heck, you know what, we'll start adding some more ore in here so we can start going under the water and, you know, be a submarine, because that, you know what, actually I'm gonna stop that because it's a lot quicker for me to just do this. And one of the good things about HyperEdit, I can just pop in a load of resources there a lot more quickly than the resource thing can. And as you can see, we're really chugging along, holding at around 50 meters per second, which is a really, really fast submarine at full throttle. As you can see, though, we're not really burning through that much of the fuel, and we do have loads of it. Again, 10,600 there. But yeah, we've this thing really moves along the ocean here. It's pretty neat in that regard. Perhaps not the most realistic thing in that whole sort of a portion, considering submarines tend to be much more slow, but still, it's fun that we have this submarine using default vanilla mechanics for it to lower to the bottom of the ocean or raise back up to the surface, and is just an all-in-all cool-looking thing that holds a whole absolute ton of crew. So if you'd like to take a look at this one for yourself, which I would certainly recommend you go and do, you can have a look at the link in the description as per usual. But that, my friends, is going to be it for this episode today. Hopefully you all have enjoyed, and you do come back for the next. But until that time, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good one.